Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this third lecture of mobile app development. So, in this, we are going to talk about some more basic things of Kivy material design library. So, yesterday we learned about these things. How can we define buttons on our mobile application? What are the different kind of buttons we can have on our mobile screen? Then what is label and how can we define a label on our mobile application? Right, so let me just run this code which I finished up with yesterday's lecture. So this is what we are getting right now. Okay, and that's these are two different types of buttons you can see over here on this mobile screen, and the theme which I selected is dark. So that's the library, or you can say the function with the help of which you can define a specific theme for your mobile application. Right, it can have two different values. Either you can pass dark to it or you can pass light. Okay, so depending upon your requirement. Now what I am doing here today, I would like to eliminate all these stuff from here. Right, or else let me just go through this code once. Okay, this is, so here we imported the uh, icon, and that's the MD app, that's our screen, and these all are the different types of buttons we can create. So let's do one thing. Let's talk about how can we define text fields, input text fields on our mobile application screens window. So for that, if suppose you want to get input from your visitor, so how you will do it? You need to have an input box, right? So how you will define an input box? So you can use this KIVYMD dot uix dot text field. Right, in this we have this thing called MD text field. Because we are using KIVYMD, that is the reason it's mandatory for us to put MD before this text field. Right, and then we can come inside this demo app class. We have this function named build. Then we can remove all these stuff from here. Done, and we have this this code with which we are creating a screen. Then just after this we can, okay, let me just remove all these things from here because we don't require all these things anymore. Okay, now inside this screen I would like to have a variable. So let's have this variable with name username. Now I would like to create a text field and would like to save that text field inside this username variable. So for doing that, md text field we'll have to use, and simply inside these brackets, and one mistake which I'm doing here is f of this field needs to be in capital. Same thing we need to follow here also, right on the top. Now inside this text field function, we can put the things which we want to see getting reflected as a text inside our input box. So text is equal to let's make it, let's say user, enter user name. So this is what is going to get reflected by default in the input text box. Now if you want to define a specific position uh, for this text input box, so for that, position hint is the option, and we can simply pass to it a dictionary. So center underscore x. I hope you remember about this thing. We talked about this position hint yesterday, right? The center is equals to, is going to be at this position. Similarly, we can pass a value for center y2, right? And it is going to be also 0.5. Fine, let me just bring it in the next line so that everything can be more visible and more clear to you guys, and I'm increasing the size of the window of this font also. Okay, now it's time for us to add this text field we have saved in this variable named username in the widget of the screen. So how we'll access the widget is screen dot add a widget. That's the function you can use for adding something to the widget of your mobile app screen. So we have the input box in this user named variable. Okay, and finally we are returning the whole screen. Let me now save the changes and run this code and see whether we'll be able to get a nice input box or on our mobile app screen or not. So we have this input box over here, and as you can see, by default it's enter username, which is getting reflected over here, right? Let me decrease the size of this window. So what is happening if I'm decreasing the size? So this line of input box is also decreasing, right? Let me close this window. Now I would like to tell you about this third attribute we can use with this for this text field, and it is size underscore hint. Let's see what can we do with the help of this. See, the when we were the input box that we were getting on the mobile app screen, it is pretty large in size. So how can we control that size? So with the help of this size underscore hint, you can do it very easily. So you need to pass a tuple to it as I tell you. So 0.5 comma 1. Let's save the changes. Now if I will run the code, so this is what I will get to see. So it's a nice text input box now, which is visible to us over here, and it's looking great, right? And if I will just reduce the size of this window, what is happening? See, its size, the input box is also reducing, its size is also reducing. Let me now tell you about the fourth attribute you can use for, sorry, not the fourth attribute, but what else can you do for customizing the appearance of your input box? That is what I would like to tell you next. Just a second, let me bring this uh, over here. Yeah, now it is perfectly fine. So I'm going to pass two values to size underscore hint, so none, and then for the width part we can simply use this x attribute. So to this size hint x we are passing none, and to this width we can have 300 pixels. I think it is going to be a good idea. Yeah, let me save the changes, and now if I will run the code, let's see what are we going to get as an output. So we are getting this input box. Earlier also we were getting the same kind of input box, but now if I will reduce the size of my window, so what is happening? It is now mobile compatible. Fine, it's now mobile compatible, and its size is not reducing. It is of the same size, right? Its size is not getting affected. So that's how you can have a better control on the size and everything of your input box, right? Now let's do one thing. Let's define another file over here. Let's create another file over here, or let's use this method called builder method. I hope you are aware of this method. Let me tell you what is this builder method and how can you import it, and what is the use of this builder method. So the first thing I would like to tell you is about how you can import the builder method. So it is there in this kivy.lang, and simply you can use this import keyword for importing it like this. So from this kivy.lang we are importing this builder method. Okay, and then what you can do, we can define, let's come down here and over here where we are returning our screen, and just before the point where we are adding the username to this screen dot widget, I would like to add something over here. Yeah, so username, and then we can use this builder function. to load a string. Right, now what's this string? I'll tell you about it later on. Now I'm using this load string function, and we can simply put a string name over here. Let's say we have a variable with name username help underscore helper, in which we have a string saved, and that is what we would like to add to the widget of our screen. And finally, the screen is this function is returning us this screen. Right. Now, what to put inside this username underscore helper variable? That's what I would like to tell you. But before that, let's comment out all these lines because we don't require them anymore. So what I am doing, I am copying this whole variable's name and I'm putting it right on the top. And now inside this username's helper, let's make put an assignment operator, and then over here inside these triple double inverted commas we can put md text field. So I'm copying it from here and I'm putting it here, and let's place a colon, and then we need to put a tab. Right, then we need to hit the tab button in order to give an indentation, in order to define the indentation. It's time for us to define the hint text. Now what will happen, I'll let you know about the same afterwards. Let's first define everything whatever we would like to have in this variable username underscore helpers. Enter username, that's what I would like to have in it. Right, besides this, I would like to define a specific position. So position, and we don't use equal to signs, we use colons. Remember this thing. Okay, and simply I am copying this whole thing from here and I am putting it over here. Right. Okay, and then what we can do, we can also have this size underscore hint is equal to underscore hint under x attribute is equals to none, and width we can have equal to 300. Now whatever I have defined over here, now it's there inside this username underscore helper method. What's the difference between this method and this method? These are two different ways you can create text fields, or anything whatever you want to see getting reflected on your mobile application screen. Either you can define it directly inside this function like this, or else you can save it first inside a variable, and then you can call that variable like this using this builder function. Right, using this builder library you can call it using this load string function which is there present in this builder library, and you can get this string saved in this username. Finally, you can get the username added to this screen as a widget, and then you can call the screen. Let's see whether we'll be able to get the required output or not. So we'll try to match it with the okay, so we are getting this error. Now why this error is coming, this is what we'll have to check out. I think it hasn't accepted the builder invalid property name. Okay, invalid property name. Okay, why is it an invalid property name? Now this is what we'll have to check out. Size hint x is equals to none. Let me do one thing, let me just comment it out for now, or else let me just remove it from here. Now if I will save the changes and run, I'm still okay. Now I'm not getting, okay, I'm still getting an error. What is this error? Width is equals to 300. It is also invalid. No problem, I'm removing this one also. Let me save the changes, and now running the code again, getting this error. So name screen is not defined. Okay, let me just check it right from the beginning. So I would like to put this back again over here, right? No problem. We'll be able to resolve this issue. This is MD text field, perfectly fine. Okay, we need not to comment it out. This is important. We commented it out. Maybe that's the reason we were getting an error. Now also we are getting an error. What's the error? Okay, so it's not able to identify these two lines of code. Now if I will save the change and run it, so I am getting a nice input box over here. You know, the one, the it's the same input box which I was getting just in the beginning. Now, how to customize the appearance? So this code is working perfectly fine. We were able to connect this code we have defined right outside this class to this screen we have defined inside this class demo app with the help of this builder library. Right, using this load string function we have inside this builder library. Okay, it's time for us to now check if we can use this size int underscore x none uh, over here or not. So I have defined it here. I'm getting this error again. So invalid property name. Now we'll have to see why it is showing us that it's an invalid property. Size underscore hint underscore x is equals to none. But this is perfectly fine. Why is it showing that it's an invalid property? Okay, maybe because maybe because of the equal to sign. You know, as I've told you that if we are using this second technique, we'll have to put a colon in between the property name and the value we are passing to it. I think that's the reason why it was showing us this error. Let me now save the changes and run the code again. So, you know, you have to keep all these things in mind. We are getting a nice input box now and it's come down. I would like to define the width also for this input box, and we can just copy it and paste it over here. So this second technique is also working perfectly fine, and we are getting okay this error. Why is it so? Why? Because it's an equal to sign we have here. We need to have a colon. Perfectly fine, I think. Yeah, it is looking perfectly fine. Now I would like to tell you something. See, if suppose you want to have a hint, you want to show the user a hint or something like forgot username. So how can you do that? A helper text, we call it a helper text in technical language. So we can simply use this helper text thing over here like this, and then we can put a colon, and then whatever text you want to get reflected right in the bottom of the input box as a helper text, you can just put it over here. You can just pass it here as a value to this helper text attribute. So or click on forgot username, right? And then how to show it to the user. So for showing this helper text to the user, we need this helper text mode. So there are two ways you can show the helper text to the user. One is this persistent mode. Now what happens in this persistent mode, that's what I would like to show you first. So the spelling is correct, yeah. So if I will run this code now, so you will see a input text box, as well as right in the bottom of it, we're able to see a nice text which says or click on forgot username. Right. In case you want this text to be only visible to you if you click on that input box. So in place of persistent, you can use on focus. So this is one of the values I like most. So right now the text is not visible to us, but the moment I'll click on this input box, see, it's now visible to us. So that's the magical code you can use for showing some hint or the helper text to the visitors of your application. Right now, if suppose you want to see an icon also getting reflected along with that input box just next to it, so how you'll do it? So you can use this icon underscore right. So now with the help of this, you can access an icon and get it reflected in the right side of the input text box. So I would like to have an icon of Android. Control S for saving the changes, and let's see whether we'll be able to get, yeah. So this icon is visible to us and now it's looking more beautiful. Right. Suppose, so this icon over here is coming in black and this is coming in blue. You want to have you want to get them reflected in the same color. How you'll do it? So it's very simple again. We'll use the same method that we used yesterday. So self dot theme underscore CLS dot primary, and simply we can use this palette option, right? And then we can pass this value to it, green, because I want to see it getting reflected in green. Let's see whether we'll be able to get the required output or not. So no, why is it so? Why it hasn't accepted this code? Maybe there is some error. Okay, the spelling is not correct. Yep, let me run this again. So we are able to see this in green. Okay, so it's working perfectly fine. Okay, the icon didn't change. Right, no problem. This is also perfectly fine. So with the help of this, you can easily do it. Now, if you want to change the color of the icon, we were not able to do it with the help of this theme underscore CLS primary palette. Is there any other way we can change the color of our icon? Let's check it out. So there is this thing, right icon right, and then you can use this color attribute, and simply you can use app dot theme underscore CLS dot primary underscore color. So you know what is going to happen? This thing is going to pick up the color. This thing over here is going to pick up the color from here and it will assign it to this icon right. Let me save the changes and run the code and see whether it is going to give us the correct output or not. So the moment you'll click the input box, you'll see both of them in green. Right. Okay, so it's working perfectly fine. It's time for us to create another py file. So I'm going to press Control and N together. And let me just save this second py file with this name, Kivy2. Okay, let me use some other name, Kivy3.py. I am saving it with, or let me just change it to app2.py. Right, so this is ev1.py and this one is app2.py. And what I am doing, instead of putting this code over here in this main file, I'm cutting it and I'm pasting it over here. Right, let me just save the changes. Now how to, this is the second file in which I have this username helper folder, and this is the main file in which I have everything, all the codes. Now how can we access this code on the app for which we have defined this full code over here? This is a issue. Now for doing that, what we can do, we can use this code from helpers import username underscore help. Right, and what else can we do over here? So I think now we'll be able to access help this username helper. Am I right or not? Let me just check it once. So username helper. Let me just run this code and see what are we going to get. So we are getting this error. Why we are getting this error now? That's what we'll have to see from helpers import. Okay, what is the name of the folder in which I have both the files? Besides, I'll have to check this thing also, the Chrome key. I think now it is looking fine. Yeah, Now it is perfectly fine. Just a second. Is I need to check whether everything is going fine or not. Sorry for this. It is going to take me hardly 1 minute. By the time, if you have any issue in this code, you guys are most welcome to let me know about the same. What I just did is I pasted this whole code from this file, and I pasted it here. I cut it out from this file, this main file, and I pasted it over here. Now what I am trying to do is I'm trying to one. Let's save the changes. Yeah, everything is perfectly fine. Thank you so very much, all of you, for being with me and bearing with me. But if you have any issues, please do not forget to share it with me in the comment section. I'm there to help you guys out. What I am trying to figure out here is the issue. Why we are not able to access this username uh, helper from here. Okay, let me just remove this thing from here. Now if I will run the code, I hope I will be able to. No. So from app 2, can we do it like this? Okay, so we are able to now access the code we have in this app2.py file in this kivy1.py. So what you have to exactly do is you'll have to, with whatever name you have saved this file in which you have the code you have defined for customizing the appearance of the attributes you have on your application screen. So you have to put the name of the file like this over here from app2, right? And whatever you want to import now, you can put it after this import keyword. So because I want to import this username helper from this file, that's the reason I have put the name like this after this import keyword, and I am able to now use it with my application for which I have defined this whole code over here, right? So it is working perfectly fine. It's now time for us to define some button on our application. So I have all these types of buttons over here. The first type of button I would like to define is this MD flat button. Okay, let's do that quickly. So we'll have to come down and we can simply put this button over here, and then we can write MD rectangle flat button, and I would like to see this text show getting reflected right on the top of this button, right? And what else we'll have to do for getting it reflected on the screen? But before that, let me just set the position also of this button. So that's where I would like to see it getting reflected, and I don't want my button to overlap with my input box. So in order to bring it a bit down, we can change the y attribute to zero point 0.4. I think that is going to be a good idea. So now we'll see the input box in the center, and just below it, we'll be able to see an MD flat button. But right now it won't be visible to us because we haven't added this button to our widget. So in order to add the button to our widget, we can use this simple code. I'm pasting it over here. Okay, and simply we can just change the name of the variable here to button, in which we have the button right now. Let's save the changes and run the code, and let's see what are we going to get. So we are getting this error because the spelling of button is not correct. Okay, so we have a nice looking button here which says show, right? So that's the way you can get a button on your mobile application screens window. Now, if you want your application to do something when the user clicks this button, so you'll have to link it with a function. You'll have to create a function, and you will have to link it to that function. So for doing that, we can simply come up over here. Let's put a comma, and just a second. Over here, we can use this on release. When the button will be clicked and it will be released. So the moment the button gets released, I would like to call this function show underscore data. Right, that's the way you can create a function, and you can link it with your button. Now, where is show data? We do not have show data over here in this file. We don't have show data over here in this file also. So we'll have to define this function now. Right, that's the task. So what I am going to do, instead of defining it inside this build function, I'm going to define it outside it like this. So def show underscore data, and I would like to pass two different parameters to it. So one is this self, and the other parameter is an object. Right, and over here we can let's see whether it is going to work or not. So I would like my application to print something in the console panel when the user will hit the button. So the username is going to come, whatever the user is going to type in the input box, it is going to come and get saved in this user named variable. I hope it is clear to you. Now, whatever he will type in the username variable, I would like to get it printed in my console. So self.username we can use here, and because we want to see the text thing, we want to see the input getting reflected as a text in the console. So for converting it into text form, we'll have to use this dot text also. Let's save the changes and run the file and see what is going to happen. So we are getting an error right now over here. What is this error? So it's an indentation error we are able to see here. Okay, so we'll have to cut it from here, and let me put it like this. And besides that, we haven't defined self dot username here, because we are using self for calling this username in this function show data. So we'll have to put self here also with this username. Saving the changes and running the file, and let's see what is going to happen. So we are getting this error. Now why we are getting this error? Because it should be self dot username. Okay, so we have this input box and this button here on this mobile application screen. Let me enlarge the size of this console panel. So we have nothing inside it right now. Let me type my own name, Gaurav Kumar Jain, and the moment I'll hit the show button, let's see whether we'll be able to get this name reflected over here in this console or not. So we are able to see this name here, right? So this function is working perfectly fine, and that's the way you can use a button. You can define a function and you can link it with your button. So the moment this event will occur, this is going to take place, and the moment this function will be called, it will print for us whatever is there in the text input field in the console. Right, now let's make this app look more interesting. So I'm going to add a dialog window to my application. So what is the thing we require for adding a dialog box? Let me just tell you that first. So in this KIVYMD.uix, we have this thing called dialog. We have this thing called dialog, and the spelling is not correct, sorry. So we can simply import MD dialog from here, right, like this. So this is going to help us in defining a dialog box. Uh, you know, okay, so that's the function which will be called when the user will hit the show button. Now, instead of this, sorry, besides this, let me add a variable's name. So dialog, and what I want is, as soon as the user clicks the button, a dialog box should appear. So MD dialog I'm using here, and the text I would like to see getting reflected on the dialog box is equals to self dot username. So whatever the user is going to type in the input box, it should get reflected in this user, in this, on this dialog box right on the top, right? And what else can we do? We can remove this thing, and in place of this we can have this formula dialog dot open. So it is going to help us in opening the dialog box, right? This is also required if you're working on dialog window. So this is also very much required, right? Let me now save the changes and run this application and see what is going to happen. What are we going to get? So I am typing here my own name, Gaurav Kumar Jain, and let me just hit the show button. So that's the dialog window this button has created for me, and I'm able to see my own name also getting reflected here. Let me close this application. If you want to define some title, so you can do it like this. Title, let's say username. Would like to check the username. So username check, right? And then we can simply save the changes, and now if you will run the application, so this is what you are going to get. Geeks for Geeks is the best platform to learn coding, right? It's the best platform. Let's have only this thing. Let's show. Okay, so username check we are able to see over here, and Geeks for Geeks is the best platform. So this is also visible to us on this dialog box. So that's the way, you know, you can add a nice dialog box to your mobile application. And it is, let me just tell you one more thing. So if I will reduce the size of this window, Geeks for Geeks. So if I'll reduce the size of this window, see the size of this dialog box is also reducing. So it is mobile compatible. That's what it means, right? You can run it on your desktop. You can run this mobile application on your mobile also, and it is mobile friendly, right? So it is also working perfectly fine. If you want to define some size of your of this dialog box, so you can use the same attribute, which is size underscore hint, and then you can put the values 0.71. Let's save the changes and run the application. So we are able to see this dialog window, and that is the way you can change the size of your dialog box. Now if you want to add some more buttons, let's say you want to add an MD flat button. Let's take flat button into consideration. So how you will do it? You'll follow the same steps. Let's say that we have two different buttons on the dialog box, which appears when we click on this button, show button. So how can we define those two buttons? How can we have two different buttons on our dialog window? So it's very simple. Let's have a variable here first, close button. So the logic is same. You have to create a variable in which you can then save your button which you have created, and after that you can call that variable somewhere so as to get it reflected on the mobile applications window. So I'm going to have a MD flat button, and right on the top of it I would like to see this text getting reflected. Close. Similarly, I would like to have another button on this dialog window, and it is going to be with this name, more, right? Now in order to add these two dialog boxes to the dialog these two buttons to the dialog box, to this dialog box, what we can do, we can use this attribute button, then put an equal to sign, and simply pass the names of the buttons in the form of list to this button named attribute. So close button is the first one, then more button is the second one. Right, now when you will run this application, let's see what is going to happen, whether we'll be able to get both the buttons on the dialog box or not. So I am putting my name over here, Gaurav Kumar Jain, and let's show. Okay, so I am getting this error. Now why this app is showing me this error? Let me do. Takes exactly one argument. Okay, so it says that it takes exactly one argument. Okay, I think I made a mistake here. It should be buttons, not button. Maybe that's the reason. Let me check it again. So we are able to see this dialog box and both the buttons are visible to us. This is the close button and this is the more button. Now nothing is happening. You know why? Because we haven't defined any function and linked the same with these buttons. I'm closing the window. Let's define a function. Let's define two different functions and link them with these buttons over here. So what we can have a function with which we can, close the dialog box, and let's have this function here. So define close underscore dialog. Okay, I would like to pass two different objects to it, or be two different parameters to it. Let's have self dot dialog dot dismiss is the function you can use for closing the dialog window. Now how to link this function with this close button? So that's the point where we have defined this close button. We can simply come down over here and on release we can use, and the moment the user will hit the button, this function named close dialog will be called, right? And finally, the window will disappear. So that's the way you can link the button with a function, or a function with a button, you can say. Let me now save the changes and run the file and see whether we'll get the required output or not. Okay, show close. No, we are getting this error. Now why are we getting this error? This is what I'll have to find out. So self.dialog. Okay, it is self.dialog. I think I'll have to make it self.dialog. Here also I'll have to change it to self.dialog, because here we have used self with this dialog, right? Saving the changes, running the file again. Let's see whether we'll be able to get the required output. So this dialog box should close the moment I hit this close button. Whether we'll be able to get the required output or not, let's check it out. Yes, that dialog box, we are able to close it, right? Okay, so it's working perfectly fine, right? See how smoothly it is working. Okay, what else can we do? Let me just check it out. So over here in this show data, the function we have defined here for showing the dialog box, we can also define a check on this username self.username.text. If the user hasn't inputted anything in the username.text, right, and he has clicked on that show button and for calling this show data function, what should happen? I would like to use this variable check string, and then we can display something like this. Please enter a username, right? So this is what is going to come and get saved in this variable. Else, if there is something inside the input box. So we can have, we can get that username text first. So username dot text, that's the way we can get it. And then we can simply put here, let's have something like does not exist, does not exist. So I'm just telling you how you can customize the function of your what we call it, mobile application. Right, once you're done with that, you can save the changes. Now run the code and let's see what are we going to get. So nothing is there. We are getting redirected on this window, and we are able to close this window. So if there is nothing inside it, what will happen? This check string variable we have used here, it will get please enter a username. Right, and now if suppose you want to get it reflected somewhere, so what we can do, um, we can pass it here. Right, let me just copy this whole thing and I'm putting it over here. Okay, saving the changes, running the application. So right now there's nothing inside this input box. So please enter a username. Closing this thing, Gaurav, show, and now Gaurav does not exist. So that is what I'm getting. That's the way you can use this if control statement. You can put a check on the things the user has provided you as an input through the input box. If he hasn't provided you anything, then simply please enter a username is going to be visible to the user on the dialog window. If he has provided you with something, then that is what you will see. Right, so this is it from my side in this lecture. Hope you guys enjoyed this one a lot, and please do not forget to like and share this video in your groups. And I hope you're enjoying these basic things. These basic things are going to help you in developing your foundation, which is very much required. If you have a strong foundation, you will be able to build a very strong house on it. Right. What I mean is that if you have a clear understanding of these basic things, you will be able to create some very good applications using these basic things, knowledge. Right. So try to take out some time from your busy schedule and try to understand these things because they are going to help you a lot in your coding career. Thank you very much, all the coders who joined this lecture, and who haven't joined in yet. Please do watch this lecture till the end without skipping any part, so that you can also understand each and every line of code I have used here for creating this beautiful thing. Okay, in case you come across any issues while developing these things, you're most welcome to let me know about the same. Put them in the comment section. I'll go through the comments and definitely I'm going to help you with the best possible solutions. Thank you very much, all of you. God bless you all. Have a great day. Take care. Be at home. Feel safe. Stay safe. Bye bye.